Elon Musk is crazy, and I mean that in the very best way possible. A Chinese military study calls it America's greatest wartime asset that must be eliminated or disrupted, and it might also be your internet service provider. Hey everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Gentlemen, Chinese military is afraid of Starlink. Elon Musk's privately held low Earth orbit, thousands of satellite internet service provider. In fact, my dish arrived on Friday, and I'm going to get that thing installed this week. I'm looking forward to having Dishy McFlatface sitting on the side of my house. I'll have the coolest house in the whole neighborhood. Suck it, Comcast. But the serious part of this is that the Chinese military sees this as a real threat. According to a report in the South China Morning Post, China must acquire the capability to track, monitor, and if required, kill all Starlink satellites in orbit around the Earth, according to this Chinese military study. Now, there are only 3,000 or 4,000 of those satellites up now, and right now, may even be fewer than that, but it's supposed to be 30 or 40,000 satellites when the constellation is finished. Nevertheless, China says that a combination of soft and hard kill methods should be adopted to make some Starlink satellites lose their functions and destroy the constellation's operating system. They're taking this very seriously. Bill, one of the reasons China is so scared of this thing is, number one, just the sheer number of satellites makes it a very difficult target. Number two, Starlink has signed a contract with the United States military to eventually deploy satellites that would have the sensors on board, not just provide internet communications, but to track Chinese hypersonic missiles. Wouldn't that be a shame?
Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of people. It was a couple months, not even that, less than a month ago, where Elon Musk tweeted, looks like the Russians are really angry at him because of sending the Starlinks to Ukraine. And if I die in an accident soon, it's been nice knowing you, See, this is why in the long run, I don't have the slightest doubt about America coming out on top of all of this stuff, no matter all of the horrific losses and degradation of freedoms and restraints and all of the stuff we're going through here. Free people build Starlink and tyrants try to destroy it, but the signal will get out. The biggest threat is not the military capability of Starlink and the ability to deliver high quality information anywhere on a battlefield. The main problem with Starlink for the Chinese is they can't shut it off the way they can shut off their own internet. And so Starlink essentially, I personally think that this is essentially a military fig leaf that they're putting over the fact that the real threat to communist China comes from free flow of information. That's the thing they cannot have. And on some level, Steve, Starlink reminds me quite a bit of the actual ground-based internet, and the entire purpose of the internet when it was first conceived of by DARPA was that it would be a way to send information through channels, parallel channels, so that the information is not going from point A to point B. It's going from point A to point B via 17,000 points in between. And so therefore you can snip any number of the connections, but the message is still going to get through. That was the whole idea of the internet. It was something that survived nuclear war because it wasn't a point-to-point thing. It distributed the messages and then delivered them all. And that seems to me like what Starlink is. It's not like they can take down a geostationary satellite or something that's beaming information back. There's, as you said, there's tens of thousands of these things. And to me, I'm just exceedingly happy about this, that China sees this as the greatest threat to their military plans, because they're not going to be able to shoot down 30,000 satellites, And if let's say they get 2,000 of them, what's that? Is that another afternoon's work for Elon to replace those? They get up there and they launch a Falcon 9 and they drop off a couple hundred of these things, and the Falcon 9 flies back to base and they recover the fairings. They throw some more kerosene in the thing and off she goes again. So there's just to close this, there's been an awful lot of talk since since forever, since the Japanese were no longer the big threat to Americans' economy. That it's China, 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 China. Future belongs to China. I didn't believe it then. I don't believe it now. And this is compelling evidence that I was right.
Scott, Bill really hit the nail on the head, I think, saying that it's the civilian threat, this free flow of information that really scares the pants off of Beijing. That said, when we've got a government in Washington that wants a disinformation bureau, a ministry of truth, letting us what we can know on our own internet, how long do you think before Washington turns its eye against Starlink?
Well, I'm sure there are some in Washington already who don't think it's a great idea, and largely because much of what they're going to be able to do with Starlink is outside of the grasp of the government. Obviously, space launch is still well within the purview of federal governance, and so you've got that kind of control. But, there's a Federal Communications Commission, which has some monitoring and legal ramifications. However, I think, first of all, I find myself agreeing with Communist China at this point. Yeah, you're right. This is the biggest threat. I have to say, this is the wisest observation I think they've made in a long time. Number two, I have already been reaching out to my contacts to begin the Mandarin version of Right Angle, which will begin streaming in any time now. Just think about it. That's like the great thing, because we think of normal broadcast television or news or whatever like that. No, it's people like us that are going to be getting through. It's this average Chinese people will be able to listen to average American people and see what normal looks like in this zany, wacky, kooky land of ours. And they're going to want some of that. And that's exciting. I think that's a positive development. I don't think that they've got an effective military deterrent to that. What are they going to do? Fly around with a giant net and just sweep up all the satellites?
I think that was out of an early James Bond movie. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing you could do in the movies. But anyway, that's a big deal. And I think they're wise to be concerned about it. But I think it's more like, okay, what are we going to do? The biggest threat is not Elon Musk. The biggest threat is the Chinese people once they have unfettered access to everything.
Yeah, what I really love to see, Scott, you're talking about Chinese and communist China getting to know us a little better and vice versa, which would be great. But what I would really like to see happen is the Chinese who are trapped in communist mainland China getting to know the free Chinese in the Republic of China on Taiwan better. I think that could be maybe the most earth-moving, earth-shattering kaboom in history. I'd really love to see that. Elon Musk is crazy, and I mean that in the very best way possible. The guy wants to die on Mars peacefully in his sleep, not on landing, as he said before. And in order to do that, he needs to build a lot of rockets. And in order to be able to afford to build all these rockets, he needs to generate demand for all of these rockets, demand that didn't exist. And so it occurred to him, why don't I create a system of low Earth orbit internet providing satellites, and created his own demand for these rockets that he's going to use so he can establish his colony on Mars where he wants to die of old age. And of course, they're going to have to live underground. So he's learning how to dig tunnels under Las Vegas and everything else. And he's going to need planetary communications on Mars. So, hey, he's learning how to do that with Starlink too. So when I say he's crazy, I mean it. But in the very best kind of way, the way that changes things for the better. And, I mentioned a James Bond movie. I can't remember which one it was. It was I think it was the fourth or fifth Connery movie where the spaceship is eating other spaceships in Earth orbit. And usually when we think of billionaires with grand designs for all of these space satellites, it's so they can generate giant space lasers and rob money from the Bank of London after they zap it out of existence, or another giant space laser to I lose track of all the giant space lasers and all the spy movies. But that's what you always think of the billionaire trying to do, to take over the world. Well, here in America, we've got our own billionaire, our own crazy billionaire, not even born in this country, who wants to put stuff in space that might just spread freedom. Folks, that is only in America. You got to love this country. And you got to love Right Angle, too. So if you've been watching these shows for free, hey, this is member-sponsored content. We'd love to have you be a member. Go to BillWhittle.com today. Sign up. We'd love to have your support. We'd love to have you on board. And until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.